I think it'll be kind of like... Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about trauma bonding. What is it and how can we heal from it? But before we jump into that, are you new to my channel? Welcome! I release videos on Mondays and on Thursdays, so make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on so that you don't miss out. But let's jump into today's topic. Now, the term trauma bonding was coined by a counselor by the name of Patrick Carnes and is defined as the misuse of fear, excitement, sexual feelings, and sexual physiology to entangle another person. But what that really means is that traumatic bonding is a strong emotional attachment between an abused person and his or her abuser, formed as a result of the cycle of violence. When I first started reading and researching this topic, I found myself thinking that trauma bonding sounded an awful lot like gaslighting or even Stockholm syndrome. You know? Because gaslighting is when we are manipulated by someone, by them telling us that what we thought happened or how something happened, like our perception, isn't right. And that can make us question our own experience or even our own sanity. And if you know what the cycle of abuse is, there's this tension building phase where you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Then there's the incident phase where the abuse actually happens. And then it's followed by this reconciliation period where they're apologetic and I love you, I didn't mean to do it. And then there's finally this little calm period, which we know as people are in abusive relationships and it goes on and on, the cycle continues, that calm period can go away. But the most important thing is that that reconciliation phase in that cycle may just make us think that we didn't remember the abuse correctly, or that it may not have been as bad as we actually thought, or that they really do love us and that's just the way that they show it. You know, you can see how this could relate in some ways to gaslighting and therefore to trauma bonding. Now, Stockholm syndrome, on the other hand, is when we have feelings of trust and connection with our kidnapper or abuser. And they say that we do this because it's our best chance of staying alive, and it's sort of like a survival instinct. And again, you can see that if we're bonding with our abusers, it could look and feel very similarly to Stockholm syndrome. Oh, and I have a video about that if you didn't realize. I will link it in the description, so if you want to learn more, you can check that video out. Okay, now that we know what trauma bonding is and how it's defined, let's get into why they think it happens. Now, research shows that bonding actually occurs because we can become addicted to the hormonal and emotional roller coaster that the abuser has put us on. Isn't that crazy to think of? That we can become, like our brain can become actually addicted to it? And what this really means is that even though the abuse is terrible, we hate it, the love and attention that we get afterwards is so good that we slowly forget how bad the abuse was. Our brain can get so used to this up and down emotional ride that it craves it. And the rush of the stress hormone cortisol, if you didn't know, that's what happens when we're super stressed, our body releases cortisol. And then when that stress of the abusive situation fades and they like shower us with love and they apologize for everything that's happened, then we get a flood of that feel-good chemical, dopamine. And that can even trigger the reward center in our brain. So in a way, we feel like by engaging in this relationship and allowing ourselves to be abused, we're actually like getting something out of it. And I know that just sounds really crazy, but it's really important to understand. And also we know that dopamine makes us feel really good, right? We can really become addicted to that feeling. And that can cause us to even think that we're in love with our abuser, especially if we're really, really young and less mature. And so many of my patients who were in abusive relationships for years have told me that they've tried leaving and dating someone else, but it was just too boring. Or they didn't get excited to see the new person like they did their abuser, or they missed their abuser just too much to really move on and even attempt to date someone else. And this draw that we can feel towards the abusive person in our life can be really hard for others to understand or accept. And that can cause us to be even more isolated, which we know, I've talked about this before, but in abusive relationships, when we're isolated, it's easier for them to manipulate us, and so it kind of leaves us in a more vulnerable position. And I say all of this just because if you are a friend of someone who may be going through this, do your best to be there and be as understanding as possible. The last thing you want to do is make someone who's already in a horrible position or situation feel even worse. So just try to listen and support as much as you can. And I actually talk a lot about this, toxic relationships, abusive relationships, within my new book, Are You Okay? That is coming out December 11th. And it's within the chapter all about toxic relationships. And it's available for pre-order now. So click link in the description to order yours today. Now, this sort of trauma bonding that I'm talking about can really take its toll on our physical health as well. Many of my patients have developed stress-induced eczema. I'm being serious, you guys, all through our scalp, onto our face, on our arms, or acne. And research even shows that some people develop high blood pressure as a result, and others even autoimmune diseases. So let's get into how we can know it's happening to us so we can move through it, heal from it, and escape as quick as possible. And so the signs that we may have fallen victim to trauma bonding are: number one, you feel stuck in the relationship and you don't really see any way out of it. Number two, you find yourself walking on eggshells around them, worrying that you may do something that'll set them off. Number three, you know that this person is doing things that hurt you, but you're afraid that they may hurt themselves if you leave. Number four, people around you have mentioned that you need to get out of the relationship. Number five, when you try and leave, you immediately feel an intense longing to see that person again. And the pain of that longing always brings you back. Number six, you're punished or given the silent treatment by your partner when you say or do something that they consider to be wrong. And seven, friends and family are disturbed by some things they've said or done to you in your relationship, but you don't really feel like it's that big of a deal. Now, those are just a few of the red flags or things we should notice if they're going on in our relationships. But if you think I missed some, please add those in the comments down below. The more warning signs we have, the better. If after hearing those warning signs or reading through the comments, you suddenly realize that you've been suffering from trauma bonding, don't worry. We can get you out and you can heal. So let's get into those very important and hopefully really helpful techniques and tools. Oh, and before I get into this, know that it is very, very normal for us to miss our abuser when we leave. People around us may expect us to feel anger, pity, or disdain for them, but we may just really miss them terribly. And so we're going to need to give ourselves the time to grieve. And be patient with yourself while you're doing this. I encourage you to share this struggle, this missing them, and the upset that you feel with your therapist so that they can help you process through all you've been through. But again, feeling like this is very normal. I just want you all to know that, because many people express to me from our Kenyan community, as well as my own patients, that they haven't told anybody about that forever, and it's always prevented them from healing and moving on. And so just know it's normal to feel sad and upset, but that doesn't mean that we can't get out of the unhealthy relationship and heal from it. Now, my first tip is obviously start therapy. Even if you aren't sure of what you want to talk about, or if you're even strong enough to talk about it all, please reach out. Preferably to a trauma specialist, but if that's not available to you, any therapist who you like and connect with will do. Because just having someone we can talk to where there's no judgment and there's compassion and understanding it's just so helpful during this time. And it can be the difference between us going back into that unhealthy relationship and being stuck in that abuse cycle again, and getting out and feeling a little bit better about ourselves and more confident that we made the right decision. And number two, grieve. Just like I said, we may not want to leave, or we may miss them terribly when we finally do leave. Give yourself the time to grieve the loss of that relationship and what it meant to you. I know logically we can know that it wasn't good and that we were hurt and it was just bad altogether, but just make sure you allow yourself to feel how you feel and be sad about it. It's okay to feel that way. I find the more that we ignore it and push it down, the longer it will bother us. And also, just because something doesn't make sense doesn't mean you don't have the right to feel it. Number three, write about the abuse. When you feel safe enough to do so, obviously, write about what happened, when it started, maybe how you felt during it. And this just gives your brain another chance to process it. And this could be something that you can do if you don't have access to therapy right now. This is something we can start today. And it will allow us the chance to vent honestly about the situation. We can talk about how hard it was and when we fell in love with them, or just all of it, right? It gives us a place to vent and to kind of process through all the situations we've been in with this person. And remember, there's no judgment when it comes to journaling. Just write it out. Use bullet points. Scribble down portions of thoughts as needed. It doesn't have to make sense at all. It doesn't have to be a cohesive sentence. You can misspell. You can have horrible penmanship. It doesn't matter. There's no judgment when it comes to journaling. And number 4, join a group. Being in a group can get us out of that feeling crazy experience that being gaslit can cause. When we hear other people's stories and they have similar experiences as us, it can be so healing and remind us that we're not alone in this, which we all know is something that we may have thought for a really long time. And also, Facebook groups will work too. I hope you found this video helpful. I know many of us in this community have been abused or in abusive relationships and are maybe struggling with trauma bonding. And overall, I just hope that this reminded you that you are not alone, and it offered some helpful tips to start the healing process. And as always, if you think I left something out or you want to add in your own experience, please leave it in those comments down below, and I will see you next time. Bye. Now, this sort of trauma bonding that we're talking about can also play a toll. Play a toll. Play a toll? Take a toll. I'm like, that's not even proper English. Now, this sort of trauma bonding that I'm talking about. Yeah, I know. Play a toll is not. Now, this sort of trauma bonding that I'm I don't know why it's so hard. Almost done, Katie.